I'm going to start now?
You've always been the manager, and I will let you take control from this moment
well,
right now.
Let me tell you my experience in Honokaa in healthcare to start the thing off. Hamakua Health Center survived since 1966, all these years. I think only for two good reasons: the good patient care by the doctors and by the nurses there, so we are thankful for that. So I take my hat off for them. Now, the reason for us creating the Hamakua Health Center, we call it infirmary in those days, there was a managing committee, and I happened to be the chairman, and Dick Fraser, Bob Bruce, and Charlie Street from Pahau, and Ellsworth Breezer Bush. He was a coordinator for the Davies. We decided to merge the four plantation clinics into one for this reason. Prior to that, you couldn't keep the doctors because they had on-call duty every weekend of the month. They had no time off, and their liability insurance was very high. So how I cope with that, the new health center, we call it the Hamakua Infirmary in those days, and I got insured by Lloyd's of London for fire and theft. So I asked them, how much would you charge me to insure all the doctors, the RNs, and the practical nurses for 1 year? $5,000. Prior to that, the doctors were paying anywhere from $10,000 to $80,000 each.
Wow.
So I eliminated all that and merging them into one clinic. They were only on duty 1 weekend a month. And George Oakley was our surgeon in Hamakua, Pawilo, so I appointed him the medical director. He was the first medical director of the Hamakua Infirmary, called things, and we had very good doctors. We had Dr. Oakley, Dr. Okada, and Dr. K.
Go back a little bit we talked about how the consolidated the dispensaries from the different plantations and we came as one, but what was healthcare like before the health center, before the infirmary was built? How did they provide health care for the different plantations prior to the infirmary?
Having only one doctor, sometimes didn't have one available, but this other one had 3 or 4 doctors on the staff. You could always get instant care as needed.
Yeah. What I can remember from when I was little, we lived right below in one of the camps, yes. And we lived below a dispensary. And from what I remember is any time, that was our little hospital.
That's right.
So that was probably in each camp, in each plantation. Mrs. Stevenin, what do you recall?
Each plantation had their own little hospital, an own doctor. During the war, you could only get 10 gallons of gas a month. They would give you an extra 10 gallons so you could go to Dr. Brown and Hilo. So the plantations took care of you. You needed extra care, they sent you to Hilo.
So it was like referring them out for extra care, for specialty care.
That's right. It was, plantation life was really a good life.
But it was nice working for Davies when we worked along the Hamakua case, because most other plantations, Brewer and Amfac and Castle Cook, when the bosses would come to the plantation, they wanted to look at your P&L statements, but the head of Davies' brother was the Archbishop of the Church of England, and when the chief executive officer came to my plantation, he would ask me, are the people happy? That's all I was interested in. You make the people happy, they work hard for you and make big money. The last year we were there, we made $18 million profit for small plantations. That was pretty good, But we didn't abuse labor. We always respected them. Or I think they respected me for that reason.
Could you just talk a little bit more about when you were living in the Pueblo Plantation Manager's Home? Because I remember walking past that, the manager's home every day to school, and I always was so curious about what does it look like inside. I heard they had a swimming pool, and we knew that we had things, we lived in a safe community because we had somebody up on the hill that was taking care of us, or not just taking care of us, we all helped each other, but we had somebody like in charge. And I passed there and I go, I wonder what it's like to be in that home. So can you share a little bit about that?
Feel live in that.
The big
I'll be honest,
our mansion.
It felt good, yes. But I never, and I'm my personality, I know what it is to be at the bottom. I never felt like I was a manager's wife, because I just felt I was just one. He had a job, I was his wife. It was my job to do my part of his work. And so that's why it's been easy for me to have lived on the plantations, because I know what it is to be at the bottom. I never thought we'd ever get there in life.
What I remember most was passing by your house, going to school every morning, and your big plantation house up there, and my parents always said that you gotta be respectful, don't shout too loud when you pass by the house, and that kind of stuff.
Every day when I'd walk to school, I'd look up and I'd say that I just would imagine what it's like there. And we talked about respect, about having
your parents.
Our parents, making sure that we didn't cross the lines of respect, and knowing that, especially if the supervisors would be around, or even Mr. Tevenin, that we behave, because if not, they would hear about it. Like
I
if
see
you
a picture of your husband's parents.
That's his grandparents.
Grandparents. Oh.
His grandfather.
She looks Hawaiian.
She's half Hawaiian.
Okay.
Leon,
That's my Hawaiian grandmother. The
What
newspaper
was the family?
said she was
he was Hawaiian.
looked like so much like she could be a twin sister of Queen Emma. I wrote him a letter. I said, "You're wrong on two things. My grandma was a commoner, and my grandma was better looking."
So you're part Hawaiian.
He has an eighth Hawaiian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you
got
speak
two girls.
Can you speak the language?
I could speak Hawaiian when I was, and when I went to university, I took Hawaiian from Reverend John Wise, and he says, I'm going to teach you boys Hawaiian, but the final exam going to be the Lord's Prayer. So I raised my hand. I says, Reverend Wise, my Hawaiian grandmother taught me the Lord's Prayer already. He says, come forward. So I went forward. He said, let's hear the Lord's Prayer. So I said, Eko mako ilo kokolani. I said the whole Lord's Prayer. He put his maka ane down. That's the eyeglasses. He says, son, you get A for Hawaiian. The first day of class, I got A for Hawaiian.
Can I ask you a question about, I know we've shared our thoughts and feelings about growing up in the plantation. You were the last manager of Hamakua Sugar, Mr. Tevenin, right? What did you think? How did the people in the camp treated you folks? What are your thoughts and feelings about that?
I'll answer for both of us. The number one word was respect. They respected you. And that is how I was brought up, raised. You learn. You may not agree with what they say or think, but you still respect them. And that is, I think it's people who respected you. Isn't that how you were raised?
Yes, that's exactly right.
That's how I was raised.
So there was respect on both sides of who we were and where we stood in the community.
With respect.
Yeah.
He just
Okay,
said
he
the
just
same
said the same thing.
But I tried to keep people happy by, we sponsored Troop Number 1 Boy Scouts. And on the weekends, I used to give them a truck to take the kids to Kauai to go swimming and things like that. So we tried to foster good community relations by keeping people happy. That's what Davies insisted. But strangely, Davies then sold the plantation agency to another Davies, Hong Kong based. So when they came to the plantation, they didn't ask me what the people are happy. They asked me, what brand of Scotch whiskey do you serve? That was time for me to leave. So I took early retirement, and I signed a contract to do consulting work in Thailand.
I'll tell you a story. When we lived at Papaloa, we go to Hilo, land to say, we're almost home, meaning Papaloa. Then after a while it was Pawilo. And then one day we were going to Honokaa down the back road, and he said, you know why I always feel like when I come to Honokaa, I feel like I'm coming home. Honokaa is home.